dessert. Clark Collis. Clark Collis.
Okay, well, my year is complete, so I don't know about you guys.
That's our show, Drive Safely.
My name is Clark Collis. I'm a senior writer at Entertainment Weekly magazine. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you to the 92Y, all the folks that organized this, and thank you, Mr. Jeff Goldblum, for being here today. So I've never, other than talking to you backstage, I've never interviewed you before. I always imagined when that happened, it would be about your acting, maybe a dinosaur would be involved, maybe a fly, maybe the Marvel Universe.
We can talk about whatever you want.
But we're here mostly to talk about your new album.
Yes, sir.
And how did that come about?
Okay, I'll give you the whole. Well, by accident or evolution, I've played piano since I was a kid. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and my mom gave us 4 kids lessons. I was a bad, undisciplined student and dreaded when Tommy Emil would come over to our house. But then he gave me a piece of jazz music, an arrangement of Alley Cat, in fact, and I was like 11 or something, and got this thing of syncopation, what that was, and it was kind of in me. I just loved it. Anyway, started to play. That's when I started to really practice, got a little better. In Pittsburgh, I'm giving you a very long story.
We got nothing but time. We're going to be here till midnight.
In Pittsburgh, I started to work with fake books, if you know what those are. Are there musicians out there? Are there jazz people out there? Nice to see you. Anyway, I started to work with those. And, figure out how to improvise a little bit. And then I got it in my mind, although around that time, I thought, I got to be an actor. I was dead set on being an actor, but I loved playing the piano, and as a kind of a side passion, never careerist or anything about it, I started to call up cocktail lounges in Pittsburgh and get these jobs. I got a couple of jobs in Pittsburgh when I was like 15. Anyway, cut to New York. I went to New York to study with Sandy Meisner at the Neighborhood Playhouse and launched miraculously into quick work on stage and in movies. Kept a piano around in my apartment. Snuck it in it was used in a play that I did early on. Snuck it in some movies and da-da-da-da-da. About 30 years ago, I did Buckaroo Banzai in like 83. Thank you. And Peter Weller, who fools around, who's a wonderful trumpet player, he came over. We used to get together at my house. And then he did believe it or not, a Woody Allen movie. And he said, oh yeah, you and Jeff do that? I know Jeff from Annie Hall and da-da-da-da. He said, well, you should do what I do, get a weekly gig and play with musicians, and you'll get better and you'll have a good time. He came back. We started to do that with another musician, first just a guitarist. That's 30 years ago, and he went off after a couple of years of doing that once a week or something, and did art history teaching and directing. I kept the core group together whenever I wasn't working. We did it just for fun, under the radar. We played the Playboy Jazz Festival at the Hollywood Bowl. That's when they said, well, you got to have a name. I sort of came up with this Mildred Snitzer, who was a friend of the family's in Pittsburgh, idea. She lived to be 102 or something like that. Wonderful woman. And I said, oh, orchestra, we're not really an orchestra. Anyway, it was a bit of a joke, but it stuck. That's what we've been called all this time. And then we've played out and about different places. And for the last several years, this place that you came, and that you're invited if you come to California, because every Wednesday we have this residency at a place called Rockwell, like Sam Rockwell or Norman Rockwell. And so here's the answer to the question. About a year ago, I was promoting Thor Ragnarok. And I was on the Graham Norton show around your parts.
Sure.
And they said Gregory Porter, whom I love, is a great singer, is promoting his Nat King Cole album, and he plays with just a piano player. Maybe he's going to be the guest on the show. You want to play with him? Yes, I said. They sent me the arrangement. I looked at it a little bit. We did it once backstage, and then I did it on the show. His record label is Decca over there in London, lovely people, Tom Lewis and Rebecca Allen. They saw it, said, hey, maybe Jeff, this Jeff character could do an album with us. And
this young up-and-comer.
Well, you know, and they came to LA and they hadn't seen the show. They saw the show. They said, oh, yeah, this could be something. Then they hooked us up with Larry Klein, who produced this album, who's fantastic. And we cooked up this idea of kind of recreating the Rockwell experience at the Capitol Records building, you know, in Los Angeles, if you've been there, you know, a famous place where Frank Sinatra and the Beatles recorded. And that was footage from from those 2 nights where we made the album. And we made it, I'll be darned. And and pretty quickly, that was like several months ago, and then Larry mixed it, and it's out. I like it very much. And so you saw, who'd you see there? You saw Alex Frank on the bass, and John Story on the guitar, and James King on the saxophone, and Kenny Elliott on drums. We added Joe Bagg, a wonderful organ player, on this that Larry kind of suggested bringing in. And then Till Bronner, who's the best trumpeter in the world from Germany, is on it. And then these singers, I don't know if you know, Sarah Silverman and I do a duet on it. She's on it. And Imelda May, great singer, and Haley Reinhart. That's the lineup. That's the story. There you go. I'm like Alan Alda in Crimes and Misdemeanors. Woody Allen says, you know, I asked him one question, he used up the 2 tapes already, you know. I'm a little yucky.
And did you always have it in the back of your mind that you would like to record an album?
Not really, no. The whole thing has been kind of I still, after telling you the seeds of the idea were just passion, there was no idea, it evolved, that's what I'm trying to say, and with never a plan or a strategy or a career goal or vision. It was just something I just loved to do. And it changes my days. I'm now, in contrast to my undisciplined early self, I play the piano every day. I get up in the morning before I wake the kids up at 7 and take them to school and stuff. I play the piano. I run through my hour stuff, and I get better. I feel like I'm playing better every day, and I love it. And so, no, this whole thing, no, I didn't know if anything would happen with it, and I'm thrilled to be doing this. We're about to go to Europe. We're going to play London at Ronnie Scott's and the London Jazz Festival, and then in Paris and Berlin. So it's just a kind of a blast, you know.
And could you talk a little bit about the songs that are on the album and how you came to choose them?
Sure. Do you know, you have the song? You have the song? I'll tell you all the songs. No, well, let's remember them. So some of them, Larry Klein said, I don't want to fool with what you're doing, because we were playing a lot of this Blue Note kind of 50s, 60s stuff, and jazz that was not cheesy, we thought. We have really great musicians, all of them, and the choices were things that interested them all along through the years, that were not cruise ship cabaret kind of stuff. But, you know, Thelonious Monk we play, and Charles Mingus, and Miles Davis, and I love that. And he said, you know, but we make it fun, we think. People seem to have a great time, and oftentimes people who have never been introduced to jazz much. For one reason or other, they come to see it, and they seem to have a good time, and, you know, we introduce these songs to them. But people have heard the album now, and even jazz people say, you know, you're doing okay. Anyway, it's kind of fun. It's not, well, Larry Klein said that I like what you guys are doing. It reminds me of jazz in some of its earlier iterations, where it was fun and social and sexy and kind of lively and a real experience, before it very beautifully became at times intellectual and more investigated and virtuose. What's the adjective to virtuosic? Virtuosic, look it up, I don't know. Well, you're all smarty pantses anyway. If you're here, you're but you know, like that, you know what I'm talking about. And so he said it's really fun. So let's try to make that. Anyway, he sort of focused our choices on what we were already kind of doing, and added a few other things that you'll see if you see footage of it. I'm kind of reading on the day because they're kind of new to me. Now we're going to play them on tour, and I've I know them better, and I'm a little more investigated on them. But so it was him. And then finally, we recorded all of the things on the album plus a few more, and it was he who we said, please, we love everything you're doing, kind of culled it down, eliminated a few. I think a Thelonious Monk song we eliminated, but we play it live. We play lots of things live, and that's how we did it. But I could go through, let's see, there's all kind of stuff on there. Herbie Hancock, that's a Herbie Hancock song. Mm-hmm. How do you say it? It's C-A-N-T-A-L-O-U-P-E. That's how you spell the fruit, right? Well, so which we call cantaloupe. But a lot of people call that Cantaloupe Island. I don't know why. We should ask Herbie Hancock what he means it to be, but in any case, do you say it differently in England?
We can't afford them in England. We don't get those at all.
Cantaloupe?
We've all got rickets in England.
You do? Your teeth look very healthy, by the way.
You're the first person to ever say, that makes me doubt your prescription lenses, if you don't mind me saying so.
True or false? Here's a quiz. Applause for true or applause for false. I've never had a cavity or a filling in my teeth in my life. Applause for true. Applause for false. Kind of halfway. The correct answer is true. I've never.
It's true. And we'd never met before this evening. I'm not a,
Never met.
Not a magician's assistant. And you mentioned that you received piano lessons as a kid. But what kind of music was around? What were you listening to when you were growing up?
So my dad, the doctor, was into going to New York to see plays and would bring back cast albums of musicals. At the time, Fiddler on the Roof and My Fair Lady and Cabaret with Joel Grey and Music Man with Robert Preston, some of the original things. And he'd go see plays, and they'd bring back, and I kind of got some buggy things about that. But he also got Errol Garner, who was also from Pittsburgh, his new album, I think that he came out with then, called Errol Garner Plays Misty. And we put it on the hi-fi. And his favorite song was Misty, and he'd say, listen to this guy. First of all, he's really cool, and he's kind of not fancy. He's short, but he sits on a telephone book to make himself taller. And listen how he pauses sort of bravely, my dad would say. And he'd say, listen to this, the way he does these octaves, do, pa, po, pa, po, pa. And I'd go, wow, he really likes that. And it made a big impression on me. And then I think around the same time, Thelonious Monk was on the cover of Time magazine. And I heard a little bit of that and was like, oh, what's that? If you know Thelonious Monk's distinctive and unique style. Like that. And at the same time, my older brother Rick, was a big jazz fan. And he would have in his room and on his stereo the Modern Jazz Quartet and Stan Getz and Astrid Gilberto, things which I still love very, very much, kind of Brazilian things. And things like that. And Miles Davis sketches of Spain, I remember he had. And then he got into, this is 67, 68, then he got into countercultural things and had the Beatles albums and Blind Faith. I remember, Stevie Winwood, come down off your throne and leave your body alone. Which Haley Reinhardt, who's on our album, gave me a CD that she made, a cover version of a lot of 60s hits, including that song. And I heard it, and I was like, and my son, Charlie Ocean, he's a little over three, he sat on my lap in our bedroom in this chair. For some reason, I was introducing it to him, and I started to cry. I got very emotional. It was so beautiful. I don't know why. And he said, Dada, what's the matter? I said, this is so beautiful. It's a sad song. I'm so beautiful. That's why I'm crying. He said, really? And he said, let's hear it again. He wanted to hear it over and over again. And now he says, Dad, I want to hear the sad song. He wants to hear the sad song again. And then sometimes I play other things. He goes, is that a sad song? So sweet. Anyway.
And then you mentioned this briefly earlier, but you had a spell playing piano in cocktail lounges in Pittsburgh as a teenager, which seems an incredibly brave thing to do, I guess,
cheeky thing to do.
Yeah. Could you talk about that a little?
So here's what happened. I was a strange boy, as you can easily imagine. So I was taking these piano lessons. I had this idea to be an actor, although it was secret. I didn't tell anybody. I was like, I'm going to be an actor. I was, you know, writing on the shower door every morning, please God, let me be an actor, and then wiping it off before anybody could find it. But around the same time, I don't think I'd been hatching it for too long, if I'm remembering right. It just kind of came to me, and I went into this room in our house that we called the study. It was this paneled room, and anyway, went in there with the yellow pages. And I looked under cocktail, and I locked the door. I didn't want anybody to come in on me. More secrecy. And then I went through cocktail lounges, started at A, and would call up and say, hello, this is, maybe I gave my name. Yeah, I understand that you're looking for a piano player. Most of them would say, no, you've been misinformed. No. Some of them would say, well, I don't know where you heard that. We have a piano down here. I don't know. Do you play? Yeah, well, come over and play it, and let's see. That's how I got a couple of jobs. But I told my parents, hey, I got this job, and I think they must have been surprised, drove me to the thing. But then I somehow connected with a couple of lady singers, probably in their, like, you know, upper teens or early 20s even, and they would drive me to the gig. You can imagine that was a magical thing.
And with these...
My theatrical and musical, my performing life has always been a little associated with romantic possibility, you know, even in the highest spiritual way, but also in meat and potatoes, fleshy ways too. You know, I shouldn't be telling you this, but not unlike Renee Santoni's character in Enter Laughing. You know, nobody knows that show. But I lost my virginity the same night as my first professional job in acting. I fell into the show Two Gentlemen of Verona, which was a musical of the Shakespearean play that Galt McDermott, who wrote the music to Hair, had written, and I was watching him write it that summer as I kind of fluked my way into the show. I was 18 years old, and opening night, it was, I had never had sex before with anyone else. Plenty of auto investigation, but as you can imagine, I won't go further. But yes, this 27. Oh, it was here in New York City. It was. She worked with the costume department. And I thought she kind of liked me, and it turned out she was separated from her husband, you know, and she had a place down on her own in a loft, so-called. This is 1971 in what, Soho, the meatpacking to Tribeca, someplace downtown, not what it was, not what it is now. And I went in the taxi down with her. Anyway, I won't go further. That's the. So, you know, yeah. This show business stuff is...
I have no idea what question I asked but it was a good answer regardless. So I have no...
Juicy stuff, yeah.
And with these, the places you played as a teenager, were they rough places or you know?
I don't think they were rough. No, my parents, I think that's what they wanted to check out probably. Right. They took me to I can't remember, it was like Captain Billy's wheelhouse or something. There was something nautical there was a nautical theme in the decoration. And I had a piano with a kind of a bar built in around me. And I had my fake books, you know. I was playing.
But you never thought of making that your professional life as opposed to acting?
Nope. 10 years old on, I was like, actor, that's what I want to be. No, just did this, and still, you know, I'm an actor and thrilled and grateful to be doing more than ever and on the threshold of my best stuff, I do believe, and enjoying it more than ever. But piano, I do, you know, I'm busy doing acting, but piano still fills my life as constantly. I play every day. First thing, I may be working on some acting thing too, but I play all the time, so it's just part of my life.
And do you feel that it is an element of your acting as well, that it affects your acting?
Yes. Yes, yes. I'm a humble student of acting and craft, and I taught for a couple of decades in order to learn more, and still am deeply interested in figuring out how to do it in the best way. And yes, music has always been part of all sorts of things. Well, Sandy Meisner's technique, as you may know, has as its cornerstone improvisation early on in the technical introduction to what it might be, and a moment-to-moment presence and attention to the other people with whom you're working, and a listening and a opening up and unique finding of your voice and expressiveness in reaction, in response, and in relation, and interrelation to the people with whom you're playing. That describes, as we know, a lot of what happens in jazz, and it still is cross-training relevant to me. There's that. Music, just as you know, I described the story with my son, it does something to me. All different kinds of music plays different notes all over my system, you know. And when I find in trying to identify the best life of a scene or event of a scene, it often occurs to me that there's some corresponding musical element. What else?
You mentioned. I mean, you mentioned that I came to see you in the spring.
But we didn't meet then.
No, that's true.
Yeah, I didn't know he was at Rockwell.
But if you're ever in LA and have and Jeff is playing, I cannot recommend this enough. I sort of had no idea what to expect. I thought it would just be you playing piano, and I thought after a few songs I'd be like, oh yeah, well that's Jeff Goldblum playing piano, and you know, would still have an entertaining time, but would probably be talking to my friends more than necessarily. But it's not that, is it? I mean, certainly you certainly play with your band, but could you give a flavor of what else happens?
So here's what happens, and this has evolved too. Early on, we didn't do exactly this, but from a few years back onward, it became more of a cohesive kind of experience that people seem to be able to consume and enjoy, and I adore more and more, that's filled with music and talk. I talk a little bit, I like to talk, but it's all spontaneous. The music, I don't like to know the set list before. The guys kind of figure it out, and I like to play a game with myself where they start to play usually, and then I play along, and that kind of interests me and surprises me. And of course, the way we render it is improvisational. We don't really rehearse. You know, we kind of jam that night. And then John Mastro, the guy who's the band manager and finds the venues and recruits the band members and arranges the whole thing, and worked a lot on this album, has become in the last few years the sort of director of when we start a song. I don't do, he kind of alerts the guys when the song starts, and then when he hands me a piece of paper. And he hands me these pieces of paper that I've never seen before, and then I read them cold. Sometimes they're quizzes that I play with the audience, you know, and sometimes it's things that I read, and it stimulates a discussion of some kind, not much serious, but sometimes it has a current events element or literature element or movie trivia. We like to play a lot. Early on, sometimes I go, it's not like a show, they don't introduce me. I kind of come, I start talking to people. I like to meet everybody, and I kind of take pictures with everybody. You know, it's only 200 people in this club, and before the night, so the band takes a break at the halfway point, and I stay there and we take pictures with everybody. And I like to do it. I like to meet everybody, and And then next day I check my Instagram, hashtag Jeff Goldblum too. Because I'm kind of an idiot. And, but I like it. And then if I'm interested, I check your thing and I go on your strain and I see all your pictures, like I did you backstage.
Yes,
I was
you
like,
did.
because he showed me the picture that we took at Rockwell, and then I said, well, let me see all your pictures.
Yes.
And then, you know, I started to see him with
And I was mostly clothed.
Mostly,
yes.
Mostly. And that's it. And so, you know, that's the evening, and it goes from 8:30-ish. I start talking at 8:30, 9 o'clock we start playing. I take pictures at 10 after 10. 11 o'clock we stop, and then we all go to my house for pizza. No, we don't go to my house. Then I go home.
And would you mind, I read that you played with Aerosmith once, is that correct? Would you mind telling that story? Or rather, maybe Aerosmith played with you, I'm not too sure.
No. We've had a lot of good people play with us, drop by our place, but no, I had done this movie 9 months with Hugh Grant. Had a little part in it. Tom Arnold was in it, and at around the same time, I think it was early 90s, Jurassic Park had come out, maybe the second one had come out. I hosted Saturday Night Live a couple of times. Aerosmith one time was the musical guest. During that week, I ingratiated myself, and otherwise insinuated myself into the musical rooms, and Steven Tyler into that. We were palsy, and I sort of, you know, rehearsed with him a little bit. I played. I said, hey, let me see what you're playing on, et cetera, making a pest of myself. But then we went to a steakhouse. They all took me to, after the show, we went to, what's the great steakhouse in New York on the bridge?
Yeah.
Peter Luger's got a big greasy steak and had a nice afternoon. Anyway, a couple months later, I was doing that 9 months movie. Tom Arnold said, hey, I know Aerosmith. Let's go over. I've got a helicopter. I don't know why he had a helicopter. I don't even remember where it was. It was some outdoor venue, 80,000 people in some, you know, big stadium. He says, yeah, come on, we'll go. We went. He said, let's stand backstage in the wings, and you can watch from there. Great, okay. And I'm watching the show. And then toward the end of the show, Steven Tyler says, hey, Jeff, are you going to come and play with us or what? Okay, hold my drink. Here I come. Piano player says, I said, what are you playing? He said, here are the chords. I said, okay, started to play. I played a song, you know, Steven Tyler, it was fun. It was really fun. Wasn't that great? I know. What a lucky guy. How have I lucked into all this? I don't know. I tell you. But you look so sweet. Look at this sweet audience.
Right.
You look, is there anybody, I've never been in this theater. You know, I've never come here or seen anything here. And I know you have great people here. But there's nobody, there's a balcony or something, but it's all full here, right? You look so good. You look so good. So happy to see you. Oh, good, they turned the lights on.
Should I take a picture of you with them?
Yes,
like
yes.
Everybody...
Yes. Yes. What do you think? Is it too much zebra shoes with zebra socks? Is that crazy? Yeah, okay, let's see. How do we do this? You got me? Okay.
I got you. I got you.
What's the matter with me?
So there are a couple of your films that have. Oh, thank you so much.
Well, good cards from you, or they can yell out their answers or their questions, or we've got cards. They disappeared again. Oh no, I like to see them.
There are a couple of your films that have musical connections, although the one I'm thinking of is not really a jazz connection. One of the first films I saw you in, being British, was a film called The Tall Guy, which I don't think people in America know as well necessarily as we do in Britain, but it was written by Richard Curtis, right?
Richard Curtis was his first screenplay, and Emma Thompson's first movie that she did, yeah.
And I think it was partly based on Richard Curtis kind of being the stooge, I don't mean that in a bad way, but the straight man for Rowan Atkinson on
It was
stage.
Autobiographical, yeah. Well, I depict, you know, that part of his life, yes, with Rowan Atkinson, that's right.
And would you, so Jeff plays a struggling / up-and-coming comedian in, actor in London. And it's a really nice romantic comedy with did you say Emma Thompson?
Oh, she's delightful in it. What a great person she is. She's one of the great people on planet Earth.
But at one point, your character lands I guess the titular role, not necessarily the lead role, but the titular role in a musical. And could you talk a little bit about what that is?
Yes. In the movie, Mike, this actor, he hates the job that he has with this actor, but he finally auditions for it. He doesn't think he's right for it, but they say, oh, you're so awkward, and yeah, I think you'd be right for the lead part. I play the John Merrick, the Elephant Man, in the musical version of Elephant Man, entitled Elephant, exclamation point. And that's the part I get. Emma Thompson is a nurse. She comes dutifully, and we start going together. I fall in love with her when she gives me, when I have to go get shots for a trip that I'm taking. And she comes on opening night to see me, and it's kind of horrible. It's a cheesy musical, you know. But I'm the elephant. I got a lot of makeup on, you know.
It's well worth catching. I would say it's great. So I've got some questions from the audience. I'm assuming this is for you. Katie and Alex ask, what inspires your style?
Well,
Zebras.
What?
Zebras.
Zebras, yes. Where are you from? Zebras.
Scotland.
Where are you from?
Scotland.
Scotland. Yeah. Is that how you say?
We actually discussed haggis in the rope wheel one time.
Oh, you did? And then you know what I like to do? I like to say, does anybody sing national anthems that are not of the United States? Do you sing the Scottish national anthem?
Well, it's actually the British national anthem.
The British one?
God Save the Queen. Yeah.
That's what, in Scotland, that's all they sing? There's no special Scottish? Oh, really? Do you want to sing a little bit of that? Go ahead, you start. We'll join in. Well, don't make a whole really, he needs to change his shirt for it. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Grief.
I picked the right guy. Hey, you know, while he's doing that, you know what I know how to do? My dad's a doctor. Wait, I know how to do this. Wait, just relax. Relax. Watch this. Relax. Relax. Is that relaxed? Did I get it?
Yeah.
I got it. Okay, come here. Okay, here we go. So go ahead, watch.
Oh, flower of England, when will we see Jeff Goldblum again?
Excellent, there we go. Very good. Not really the national anthem, but that's good. What was the question? How did we?
What inspires your style?
My style. Zebras and haggis. Well, I've always been strangely into dressing up. You know, I liked clothes when I was a kid, and then acting. My serious devotion to acting led me to build characters, not only from the inside out, but the outside in. Oftentimes, not only after the director, I build a real bond with these very talented costume people, as you can imagine, first in the process, and well, no, not in that way. In the artistic bond, and we really kind of, and they usually know the script very well, and I say, we got to find the right pair of shoes that make me feel a certain way, walk a certain way, and everything. I'm very tactile, and so I'm interested in it, and it really means a lot with your, you know, what you're going to do to me. And then playing piano and showing up and doing this thing, I've started to kind of think, gee, what's this Jeff Goldblum character best represented as visually? And about 4 years ago, I came upon this guy, Andrew Vitero, who had never done celebrity so-called styling before, but worked for GQ and is a very smart guy, masters in art cinema, and is a great photographer. I said, I did this GQ photo shoot, and he was there, and I started to yak about clothes, and I said, gee, if only you could come home and look at my closet just to tell me what jeans to get rid of, and I like to kind of prune things down and all that. He did, and we started a slow kind of partnership, and the last 4 years, there's not one piece of clothing that I used to have that I now have. We've sort of gotten other things, and we like, I enjoy working with him and making these outfits, you know, and get my picture taken. Yeah. Look at that, dum boom. I like these pants. These are kind of stretchy. Look at this, dots. I like it.
This is a question from Andrew. What advice would you give your 30-year-old self?
Very interesting. Ooh, my 30-year-old self, well, that's an interesting choice of, I mean, I could talk to my 6-year-old, my 12-year-old, my 18-year-old self, but my 30-year-old self, well, I had still much to learn, as I've still got much to learn, and around 30, I would say, you know, generally keep exploring avenues which will lead to your self-trustfulness, generally speaking. And specifically, if I could give you any advice, cut out any, because I've now done it like about only 4 years ago or 5 years ago, cut out any performance enhancement, you know, help. I was having coffee. I know most people have coffee, and the trainer says it's good for you even before a regular day in your workout. But I was using it as kind of, oh, I'm going to have to talk to these people. I better get a little jazzed up, and I got to have some energy. That was still a kind of a vestige of a mental crutch that when I jettisoned it, it did, I believe, something good for me. Incrementally, along with all the other things I've done for the last few decades. But it was really good. I just come now as is. I try to get a good night's sleep. I came right from the airport to here, but I kind of worked on getting my sleep in the plane. I slept, had a nice nap in the plane. So I would tell him, you know, don't worry, you're fine. You've got everything you need to do. You've got in you. You've got the resources to do it in you. You know, solve the problem. Even tonight, you know, what's the energy here? Who are you? How
The energy is great.
It's great. But, you know, this is the kind of thing you have to kind of solve. How's the energy in me? How do I kind of navigate this so it goes well? I don't want to let myself down or let you down, you know, but I go, whatever it needs, I'll just try to put some effort into it and see if I can trust that I can solve it the best way I can. And if I can't, it just has to do, you know. That's what I would tell, it's still interesting to me. And of course now all these, you know, advice giving and all that stuff, or how I can contribute. Well, I like teaching, you know, I do like teaching. And now I've got this interesting opportunity of having these 2 boys. And boy, I know many of you must have children. That kind of focuses your thinking and turns your half-baked ideas, turns the light on some of your half-baked ideas, and you're motivated to kind of enhance them, you know, so I am at this point.
Thank you so much. And this, I think this is from Vera, although I guess it could be from Vern. Is this Vera or Vern about the spirit animal? Vera, sorry,
Where's Vera? Where's Vera? Hi, Vera. Hi, Vera. Hi, darling. Hi. Nice to see you, Vera.
Vera asks, what do you consider your spirit animal? Clearly she says whatever it is, she needs to tap into that.
I would say, as per my last question, you tap into the Vera animal. Forget my animal. You've got your own animal that's living within inside you, and I'm sure you've already found it, but you know, if you haven't, just keep exploring that. Me, zebra. No, I don't know what my spirit animal, although I love animals of all kinds. We went to the zoo. We took the kids to the zoo, and we saw some things, but one of the first animals we saw were meerkats. You know meerkats? Well, they really struck the imagination of Charlie, particularly, and now River, who's 18 months and does whatever Charlie does, really. But you know, Charlie has been acting out meerkats, and he makes his eye, and he goes around that, and he kind of prances around. It's just excruciatingly adorable. And then for Halloween, we made him up as they wanted to be meerkats. He got some black fingernail and toenail polish and got some whiskers, and then Emily's mom, French who lives in Toronto now, went to the store and made them these homemade kind of fuzzy, very great costumes. They were meerkats, you know. Anyway, that's their spirit animal currently. I don't know, what would I be? What would I be, a dolphin or a... What do you think I'd be?
Maybe a zebra.
You say zebra? You say zebra?
Isn't that what? Is it zebra?
We say
What?
zebra.
Oh,
We
okay.
say zebra. Yeah, but zebra, nothing wrong with zebra. I guess. And zebra, you also say zebra. Okay.
Aria, what a lovely name. Aria asks, what was your favorite acting role?
Where is this Aria of whom you speak? Alejo. What did you say? Aloha? What did you say? Alejo. Hi. Hi, Aria. My favorite acting role? Well, you know, I've been very lucky. I've done a lot of stuff at this point. I've had a lot of good movies. You know, I loved working with Robert Altman early on. You know, Nashville is a movie that's interesting. He was a great teacher and a wonderful, artful, masterful fellow. Wes Anderson, I love very much. These 3 movies I've done with him, you know, Isle of Dogs and Grand Budapest Hotel and Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I love him. I liked working with Taika Waititi on Thor Ragnarok. He's really brilliant, and he encouraged me to improvise. A lot of that stuff is just fooling around, and we improvised a lot. Since then, I did a movie that I was telling you about that Rick Alverson directed. You may not know it unless you're really a connoisseur of the art alternative movie.
Mehdi.
He did 2 things called the comedy. Who's that?
That's my friend Mehdi. I used to work with her.
Mehdi?
Yeah, M-E-T-T-I-E.
Mehdi. Hi, Mehdi. Beautiful glasses, beautiful frames. Hi, Mehdi. You look very stylish. So you know, he said he knew this movie. So you saw the comedy with Tim Heidecker, but did you see Entertainment that Rick Alverson? I loved that. He's only done 2 movies, really. His last movie called Entertainment, Michael Cera was in it and John C. Reilly, but it's on Netflix. Yes, Entertainment. This is in the same tonal vein. It's kind of, you know, I love the movies of P.T. Anderson that are sort of American critiques, The Master and There Will Be Blood, and sort of metaphorical and poetical and ambiguous and musically strange and unexpected. And disturbing and provocative. And this movie is called The Mountain. It was in competition at the Venice Film Festival. It's going to be shown, I hear tell, at Sundance upcoming. And it's with me and Ty Sheridan, wonderful Ty Sheridan, whom you know. And it's about, briefly, I liked it a lot. I play a character based on the real life guy, Walter Freeman, who pioneered lobotomy in America in now in the 40s, and then we depict him or a character based on him in 54, now fallen on hard times. Lobotomy is much discredited, but he still has a chance to go around the Pacific Northwest in the rainforest up there with his new pal, Ty Sheridan, who's taking pictures of him and stuff, and going on drunken binges and womanizing and going to institutions and asylums and teaching people how to do it quickly by poking through their eyeballs and, you know, doing that. It's gruesome, but and then Denis Lavant is in it, this wonderful French artist, cinema artist and actor, and Udo Kier is in it, whom you know, and it takes a weird turn when we run into Hannah Gross and her father, Denis Lavant, who is a cult leader that is leading people to go to Mount Shasta, around Mount Shasta, and do dancing, you know, Sufi dancing and spiritual, you know, Odyssey work. And yeah, wait, what was I going to say? Yeah. Yeah, and you know, it's the myth of the Lemurians, you know, and the lost continent of Atlantis and all that stuff. Anyway, it's all tip of the iceberg. It's not spelled out for you. It's a poem, you know. I kind of love it, you know. You know, it may not be everybody's cup of tea.
And just out of my own personal curiosity and being British again, early in your career, you worked twice with Michael Winner for Death Wish, which a lot of people know about, and then The Sentinel, which is one of the craziest horror films of all time. He was certainly in Britain when you were this, Michael Winner was this larger-than-life character who eventually became more of a restaurant critic than a director. But what was that like?
Did you ever meet him or not?
I did not, no.
Yes, that was my first movie ever, and the first movie I ever auditioned for in 1972 this was, or 3. I got sent up for this thing, and it was this bad guy. We were one of the 3 in Death Wish. We were one of the 3 guys who kill Charles Bronson's wife and rape his daughter in this opening scene that sends him off into this spree. And I was like, oh, I'd just been studying. I was like, yeah, I could do something like that, I think. And I auditioned 3 at a time, bunch up at the Gulf Western building, and up here in New York, and we, went in and kind of, mimed things. There were no women there, and we kind of, menaced them. I got the part, and Michael Winner, yes, he gave me that part. Excuse me, I'm a little gassy. The Michael Winner, he said the very first shot that I ever did in a movie, the 3 of us were skulking up some stairs on the Upper East Side in their building where we'd found their address at D'Agostino's, and we're skulking up, and they're setting up the camera shot. I didn't know anything about this, sort of rehearsing the shot, and we were, okay. But he yells at me. He was known as an abusive sort of screamer, and he picks me out in the first rehearsal for the first shot that I've ever done in a movie. He yells at the top of his lungs, "Goldblum, start acting now." I don't know what I wasn't doing, but I burned with shame, and But in the ensuing years, I realized it was not the worst piece of direction. It's pretty good. It's not rocket science. Just start acting now. That's kind of it. Anyway, Michael Winner.
That's fantastic. I have a question from Antonio, who asks if you would like to score a film. Is that something that you would be interested in?
Who's this Antonio? Where are you, Antonio? Hello. Hi, Antonio. Hi, Antonio. Me and music, like I've said, I have no grand plan or little plan or any plan. It's just happened. Who knows what'll happen now? No, my plan is to act, and I don't know what'll happen. But I did direct this movie. I directed a short movie because out of my teaching, in fact, whenever it was, quite a while ago, I wanted to kind of experiment, and somebody gave us money to do something, and with the students and with the addition of Rod Steiger at the time and Julie Harris, we put together this 37-minute movie. And it got nominated for an Academy Award that year, believe it or not. And but I was very involved in every aspect of it, and I really enjoyed being involved in the scoring of it. I did play on one little track, because my friend Benny Wallace, I used a jazz score, kind of inspired by Thelonious Monk, particularly by his song "Ugly Beauty," that Benny recomposed something that sort of was reminiscent of that, and I think I played on something. Anyway, I like doing the score for that, and music means a lot to me in movies. Like I said about The Mountain and P.T. Anderson's movies, a movie can work for me. There's no rule, there's no empirical criteria. It's just my own personal taste. So, but if the music goes wrong for me in a movie, if it's too sappy or tells you too much or too manipulative or too middle of the road or too expected, those are kind of my thing. I'm kind of done, and it can really be a red flag and a deal breaker. Likewise, if something comes on that I think is that really surprises me, I'm interested. And I keep watching speaking of Rod Steiger, I've watched many times over the years On the Waterfront, and I realize that I'm very moved every time I see it. But in, for instance, the cab scene, they're acting up a storm, Brando, iconically, but the music in that scene is one of the things that is the thing that really gets me. That the music can do something to you that nothing else can. And you know who did the score? It's the only movie he ever scored. Who scored that movie? Leonard Bernstein. That's right. That's right. It's beautiful, beautiful.
We're almost out of time, but I do have time for a couple more questions. You mentioned watching On the Waterfront. I think it's Ryan asks, what's the last show you binged watched on Netflix?
Ooh, who's Ryan? Where's Ryan?
Ryan, I apologize if it's not.
Ryan. There's Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Hi, Ryan. What did I binge watch on Netflix? Mm-hmm. Well,
or I guess anything really.
Or anything.
Unless he's being paid by Netflix to answer that question.
I saw every episode of Breaking Bad. Was crazy about Breaking Bad. Saw all of it was because it was a multi-episode. Saw all of Wild Country, the documentary on the cult. Kind of interested me. What else did I see? Binge watch, which means it needs to be a series. It needs to be
I think whatever interests you is going to interest these people. To be honest with you, I don't mean these people. I mean the people who are the good people who are here.
I like to watch the TV, but now that I'm my phone isn't here. Now that I'm addicted like everybody else and try to curtail it because we don't let the kids have any screen time yet. I think it's probably a good idea. No, we don't even want them watching us, catching us on our phone much. They don't watch television or anything like that. I've broken so I see everything, but I see everything for my own entertainment on YouTube, and I like it the size that I don't even have an iPad. I like everything on the phone. I watched lots of things there, and today I was watching, there's so much you can see, Sam Harris, there was a conversation like this between Brian Greene and Sam Harris that I'm halfway through on my way to the plane, but I like a lot of stuff like that. I'm about to do this National Geographic series, so I've seen One Strange Rock and all that stuff. I like that because I'm about to do 12 episodes of that. But what I put the TV on for these days is to go to my iTunes, unless I'm watching the Steelers play football, and they're doing pretty well now, or the news, but. But I catch the news in just more discrete, chunks on my iPhone, and I don't just keep it on all day. Can't do that anymore like I used to. So what I do besides those two things is I turn on iTunes and I get, particularly these days, Filmstruck, which is going out of business, I learn, in a little bit. But Filmstruck is great because there's the Criterion Collection, and I'm catching up with movies. So, there are movies I'd never seen before. I'd never seen Stalker, the Tarkovsky movie before, which had been highly recommended to me. Watched that in dribs and drabs every night, and then saw documentaries on it. So that's the stuff that I'm watching now. What are we watching right now? We're halfway through something on Filmstruck. Wait a minute, on Filmstruck. Emily and I do it at night. We just finished something. Anyway.
These are the last couple of questions. They come from Christopher Casella?
Where?
Is it Casella, is it?
Christopher. Hello, Christopher.
And I think these are good questions to end on. What do you consider the most challenging point of your career? And what do you most want to be remembered for?
We could all go at any time, we know that. And I'm closer now to the end than the beginning, we know that. Although maybe I'll be 102 like Mildred Snitzer. Well, the most challenging point. Well, getting started, it was miraculous how it started, Christopher. Like I said, I auditioned I fell into that Two Gentlemen of Verona thing before I even had auditioned for anything. I fell into, which was a big hit. I went to Broadway with it, and it won a Tony. Death Wish was the first thing I auditioned for, so that went very well. But I really was justified in feeling frightened and that I didn't know what I was doing, because I didn't really. I had a flair for it, let's say, and an enormous appetite. But Sandy Meisner had said, I took it to heart, but maybe I took it the wrong way too. It made me anxious. He said it takes 20 years of continual work before you can even call yourself an actor. And then a lifelong, if you're lucky enough to still be at it, work to keep growing till the very last moment. Well, that's great, and I've taken that to heart. But during the first 20 years, I guess I did feel I hope I can do this. And as you know, just professionally, every job you get at that time, getting a lucky foothold felt like an audition for continuation, which I guess it is. And so I felt, you know, and not like music where I was just doing it kind of for the fun of it. I felt that I needed to make my way. That was the only way to make my way. You know, I didn't have anything else I wanted to or could do. So this must work, and I was determined and romantic about it, you know, wildly romantic about it, but determined and but pressured. So early on, and I had a susceptibility toward kind of anxiety anyway early on. So I'd be lying if I didn't say that early on there weren't moments of supreme excitement and delight, but also terror and horror. And I would forget coffee these last few years. Early on, I would do shocking things to myself. I won't reveal.
No, we can push the time. If we got.
In order to feel worthy to do this, you know, and to try to do it the best way, and to somehow, you know, do it really, really skin the cat, do it well, which seemed beyond me, or you know, not within my power, et cetera. And it was still out of my, you know, I still was trying to figure out how to do it. So that was challenging. There were moments of, my God in heaven. I was in an acting class when I first went to Los Angeles in '74, 4 years after I spent the time here, and with a wonderful teacher, Peggy Fury, and I overemphasized preparation too, in the same vein as all this other stuff. And I was about to do a scene in class, and I went down on the street. It's on La Brea, kind of a business street, and I was pacing up and down the street and kind of pounding myself on the chest hard, and I don't know what I was doing, talking to myself or just singing to myself, and a police car pulled up. They had been notified that there was a strange behaviorist in the neighborhood, and they said, pull over, Johnny, you know, and what's going on? Oh, officer, I said, I'm acting, and I'm just preparing to do, well, let's see, take us up for the class. Oh no, please, that'll don't do that. Please don't do that. Interrupt the class. Come on, let's go. And knock, knock, knock. Peggy, it's Jeff. I've got the police. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Is he in your class? Yes, he is. So sorry. Okay, there you go. Anyway, you know. It came to mind, just to show you a little bit. I could tell you many other stories, but a little bit of how I sort of could torture myself visibly, conspicuously, you know, much to the alarm of others, you know. Early on, I would say that was challenging, that I made it out, that I survived out of that I kept doing something. And I look back at some things and go, I could have done better. I could have done better if I'd done it now. You know, there were some challenging times. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for being here today.